First at noon, we begin with a live look at Nimitz Highway near Sand Island, where cleanup continues after a semi-truck flipped over this morning and lost its load. Emergency crews have been at the scene since 7:45 a.m. and the semi was carrying metal scraps, and all of that fell onto the roadway. Now, officials said the driver was not hurt and was able to get out of the truck on his own. Meanwhile, the left turn lane on Sand Island Access Road and two eastbound lanes of Nimitz are still shut down. Two westbound lanes are being contraflowed at this time, so expect delays if you are heading toward that area. Well, Governor Josh Green presented his budget proposal to the state legislature today. A news conference wrapped up just a short time ago, and Dylan Ancheta joins us now with the highlights. Dylan.
Thank you so much, Ashley. This budget is the biennium budget proposal. The state says this budget emphasizes efforts to reduce the cost of living, expand affordable housing, and of course, address homelessness. There are also a number of priorities in there regarding biosecurity, wildfire mitigation, and education. Overall, this aims to cover not only the governor's key initiatives, but also important matters for the legislative leaders, as Governor Green says this proposed budget was a collaborative effort. He says in total for the 2026 and 27 year, the state's part of the budget is $20.9 billion. That is then matched with federal dollars and special revenues, which essentially doubles the total spent.
What does this budget do? Well, this budget is a reflection of our values. And that means our values to care for one another, to care for local families. We remain completely convinced that the cost of living for our local residents and housing/homelessness are the top priorities of our state. There are many priorities, but our values are to care for local people and make sure they can live their lives, that they don't struggle, that they don't suffer.
Governor Green added that the state is in a good place and does have adequate resources to cover this budget, and that he is not tapping the rainy day fund, which is now at $1.5 billion. We'll have a deeper breakdown of the numbers in later editions of our newscasts coming up this evening. Dylan Ancheta, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Dylan. A gunman opened fire at a private Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin earlier today. Police say at least 3 people are dead, including the suspect, and at least 7 others are injured. Lilia Luciano has more.
Law enforcement rushed to the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin, just before 11 a.m., responding to calls of an active shooter.
When officers arrived, they found multiple victims suffering from gunshot wounds.
Madison police say multiple people were killed in the attack. They did not fire their weapons. Among the dead, a student who police believe was the shooter.
Officers located a juvenile who they believe was responsible for this deceased in the building. Additionally, the officers began administering life-saving efforts to anyone who was wounded.
At least 5 others were hurt and taken to the hospital. Police said their injuries range from minor to life-threatening.
Today is a sad, sad day, not only for Madison, but for our entire country.
Nearly 400 students from kindergarten through 12th grade attend the non-denominational school. This was their final week of classes before the Christmas break.
It's a little shocking. You always see it on TV that it happens somewhere else, and it's very scary.
Law enforcement officials say the FBI and the ATF are assisting with the investigation. Lilia Luciano, CBS News, New York.
Luigi Mangion remains behind bars in Pennsylvania as authorities in New York City fight to extradite him to face charges in the high-profile murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Priscilla Thompson has the latest developments from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
Well, accused murderer Luigi Mangion now has high-powered New York defense attorney Karen Friedman Agnifilo on his side. She is someone who worked for more than 7 years as the chief assistant district attorney in the Manhattan DA's office, so has a lot of experience in the office that is now prosecuting this case. And it comes as an indictment in New York appears imminent, with sources telling us that a grand jury could be prepared to hand that up as soon as this week. Mangion's attorney last week in the courthouse said that they were going to to fight extradition, that they were going to fight these charges. But of course, now he has Agnifilo on his team, and she is declining to comment on the matter. But we do know that the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections says that she and her husband, who is also an attorney, visited Mangione on Friday. That is the same day that the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg came out and said that he had some indication that Mangione may waive extradition, so may no longer try to fight extradition. Now, as for what comes next, Mangione is due back in court later this month, but the Manhattan District Attorney saying that if he were to waive extradition, we could see him in court as soon as tomorrow to do that, paving the way for him to return to New York City. Back to you.
We're learning more about an attempted murder investigation in Waimanalo. Police are still searching for a suspect. Here's what we know so far. Law enforcement sources tell us an altercation started at a Waimanalo karaoke club. Security video posted online by HHH News shows one group sitting down just after midnight on Sunday. One man in a white baseball cap appears to confront another man at the head of the table on the right. Another member of the group wearing a white shirt gets up and moves between the two men. But seconds later, the man with the white cap reaches around and punches the seated man in the head.
We've had it when I was working on the east side in Kailua. We'd have Kailua, Waimanalo, Kaneohe. Occasionally you get Waianae, Waipahu comes into the throw, Kalihi. It's chest beating fueled by alcohol and leads to nothing but trouble.
Sources tell us the dispute continued 2 hours later at 2 a.m. outside a nearby Jack in a Box. Now, during the fight, a 26-year-old man fell to the ground and became unconscious. EMS rushed him to the hospital in critical condition. The suspect ran away. HPD says bystanders at the scene did not help officers. On Hawaii Island, the search continues for 3 inmates who escaped from a work furlough facility on Friday afternoon. Police say Joseph Fernandez, Clyde Loa, and Kawai Pomeroy stole a car from an employee at the Halenani Correctional Facility in Hilo. It's a gray 2014 Nissan Altima with the license plate ZCK261. Here's what we know about the inmates. Now, Loa was already in custody for auto theft. Pomeroy was locked up for abuse of a household member, and Fernandez was serving time for a firearms violation. If you see them, do not approach them. Instead, please call 911. Fit to stand trial. That's what a Hilo judge ruled for 34-year-old Jarvis Boots. The court says that 3 mental health experts found that he was not substantially impaired and will undergo trial. The Mountain View man is accused of shooting and killing Benjamin Davidson in December of 2020. The father of 3 was sitting in his car at Poinico Town Center before work when he was shot twice. Boots faces 18 criminal charges, and his trial will begin in June. Well, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are putting new pressure on federal security agencies to get to the bottom of the mysterious drone sightings that have now popped up in at least half a dozen East Coast states. Natalie Brand reports from Washington, D.C.
With yet another sighting Monday morning, this time in Texas, concern is growing over the mysterious drone appearances across multiple states.
Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should.
In New Jersey, authorities released a heat map to help track drone sightings in real time.
This is a national public safety and security issue, right? If they aren't foreign drones, then it is a state public safety issue.
Local officials are urging the federal government to give them more control over their skies.
Right now, only parts of the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and Department of Defense are allowed to detect and mitigate drones.
Lawmakers are calling for immediate action to address the concern.
What the drone issue points out are kind of gaps in our agencies, gaps in our authorities, and I think Americans are finding it hard to believe. We can't figure out where these are coming from.
The FBI and Department of Homeland Security say there is no evidence of a current threat to national security or public safety.
Some of those drone sightings are, in fact, drones. Some are manned aircraft that are commonly mistaken for drones.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the federal government has deployed additional resources and personnel to address the drone sightings. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
You enjoyed your weekend. The forecast for most of this week is going to be focused on surf. We've got a monster extra large swell expected on the back half of this week. So let's get into our numbers for our surf and shoreline forecast. North facing shores around 4 to 6 feet. West facing shores 2 to 4. A little bit smaller in town. And east facing shores as the winds are weaker out there will be dropping over the next couple of days. You can see in our swell forecast, we're going to walk through this hour by hour. This is Tuesday at 2 p.m. There's a strong northern Pacific storm that's sending a lot of swell energy our way. By the time we get to Thursday and Friday, some of that energy makes it to the island chain. We could see high surf warnings going into effect by the time we get to the end of this week. I'll give you a further breakdown on this in my full forecast coming up.
President-elect Trump holds his first post-election news conference from his Mar-a-Lago estate. I'm Cristian Benavides in West Palm Beach, Florida, with how he says he will govern the next 4 years.
Also ahead on This Is Now, if baking sweet treats is a holiday tradition of yours, we'll tell you why the price of many essential ingredients are spiking and what you can do to save money. President-elect Donald Trump spoke about a number of issues important to him at Mar-a-Lago today. He answered questions for more than an hour in his first news conference since winning the election. Cristian Benavides has more details from West Palm Beach, Florida.
President-elect Donald Trump was joined by SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son, who announced plans to invest $100 billion in U.S. projects over the next 4 years.
He's doing this because he feels very optimistic about our country since the election.
The announcement kicked off a wide-ranging news conference that touched on the border wall Trump started in his first term, with the president-elect addressing President Biden's decision to sell off unused portions of the wall.
It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars.
Trump also questioned the government's handling of the mysterious drones which have appeared in the night skies over the Northeast.
I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should.
Trump was asked about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s opposition to vaccines, his pick to lead Health and Human Services.
Bobby is a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen.
RFK Jr. is meeting with senators for the first time this week ahead of confirmation hearings. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, West Palm Beach, Florida.
A red alga that was first found by UH researchers smothering coral reefs at the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument has been detected for the first time by the team outside of the marine monument and more than 2,000 miles away. The research team detected DNA matching Chondria tumulosa in Majuro Atoll in the Republic of the Marshall Islands in the East Central Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, it was really unexpected. So we were just kind of doing this routine surveying of all the eDNA that we've collected across the Pacific. And yeah, when it lit up from Marshall Islands, it was, unbelievable. So it didn't seem to be overgrowing the corals in the way that we saw it up in Papahanaumokuakea. So yeah, it's cryptic and hard to find, but that could be that it's newly arrived there, could have been there all along.
With other potential sightings throughout the region, researchers plan to extend their surveys beyond the Marshall Islands to better understand the alga's distribution and ecological role.
And stick around. Coming up after the break, I'll give you a look at our first alert weather headlines. Extra large surf and variable winds are expected this week.
First Alert Weather with Drew Davis.
Well, happy Monday, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. Let's get right into our First Alert Weather headlines. We've got extra large surf expected throughout the majority of this week. Today, we're actually seeing the smallest surf on north and west facing shores that we'll see all week long, and also light and variable winds are expected. Taking a look right there, you can see your headlines. We're going to also be tracking large surf as well. You can see in our swell forecast. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but you can really see that as we're going forward throughout the rest of this week, we've got large surf expected on north and west facing shores. You might not be able to see all of the graphics, so this is around 12 p.m. on Thursday. We're really going to be seeing high surf warnings expected on north and west facing shores. There you can see our full graphic right there. This is Friday at 9 a.m. High surf warnings are expected by the National Weather Service. That's what they've said in their latest discussion for the surf forecast. And we're also expecting that large surf to impact us on on Tuesday and Wednesday. We could see high surf advisories before we get to high surf warning levels. Outside of surf, we've got light winds expected over the next couple of days. This is throughout today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Light and variable winds. Even in town right now, we're seeing southerly Kona winds around 9 miles per hour. So we might see humidity on the rise a little bit throughout this week. And we go forward into our first alert windcast going into Monday afternoon. You see an overall southeasterly flow introducing a little bit of humidity. Still southerly winds in town around 7 miles per hour. Going into later this evening, winds start to weaken overnight. Light and variable winds expected into the overnight of Monday night into early Tuesday morning. Your first alert futurecast, we also have a couple of showers out there expected. With these light and variable winds, we typically see a sea breeze throughout the afternoon, so some of those winds will pop up some showers in the hottest part of the afternoon. You can see they're very spotty over windward areas mostly right now in our models. Throughout the rest of this afternoon, we could see some showers over windward Maui and windward Hawaii Island. A similar story as we're going into Tuesday afternoon as well. Going to your hour-by-hour forecast. Our live cam out there right now. Beautiful weather, sunny skies, southerly winds of around 9 miles per hour, a couple of clouds in the skies, and temperatures around 82 degrees. We're going to expand this out going into the rest of this evening. Calm winds expected by the time we get to 6 to 8 p.m. Temperatures dropping into the upper 70s. And again, really beautiful weather expected over the next couple of days with those light and variable winds. You'll really start to feel the humidity on the rise. Taking a look at your island by island forecast, we're going to run through this really quickly. On Tuesday for Kauai, we've got beautiful weather out there, variable winds across the entire island chain. Here on Oahu, mostly sunny, some evening clouds. Maui County, partly sunny, some spotty evening showers as well. 86 in Kahului and 85 in Kihei. Still a little bit warm out there. And over on the Kona side of Hawaii Island, warm afternoons, some Mauka cloud cover is expected. And taking a look as well as we're going to Hilo, partly sunny, some chance showers in the evening. Taking a look at the northern parts of the Big Island, light winds are expected. Your first alert 7-day forecast. Here you go. We got beautiful weather on Tuesday and Wednesday. A couple of showers expected on Thursday and Friday as a front moves in. And of course, high surf warnings possible by the time we end off this week.
Thank you, Drew. Well, baking is a holiday tradition, and Americans use more butter this time of year than any other. Last year, the price was up 16% in November and December, but this year, the cost of baking ingredients has jumped even further. Nancy Chen tells us why.
Gingerbread houses, holiday pies, cookies for Santa. They're the sweet treats of the season. But their prices are enough to make any baker a Grinch.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
The price of baking essentials like flour, milk, and sugar have all spiked in recent years, with eggs more than doubling in price and butter almost 30% more expensive today from 5 years ago. But those hikes are often not enough to offset the increased costs here.
She was just born.
Yeah, she's less than 20 minutes old.
Or dairy farmers like Nate Chittenden in New York's Hudson Valley say the higher price of operating is also squeezing more people out. Because milk is priced by the government as a commodity, individual farms can't charge more to processors when their costs go up.
Between the increased cost of feed and the increased cost of labor, how difficult is it financially for you?
It's a struggle every year. We are one big mistake away from being bankrupt.
Chittenden depends on being part of Cabot Creamery's co-op as a lifeline, while taking care of nearly 1,000 cows, the third generation of his family to do so.
This herd produces about 6,400 gallons of milk each day, with much of that churned into butter. And there's a big appetite for it. The average American consumed 6.5 pounds of butter last year alone.
While demand continues to climb, the challenges for farmers nationwide do too, as they now also struggle with labor shortages, bird flu outbreaks, and extreme weather. The most recent numbers show about 40% fewer dairy farms than just 5 years before, the most dramatic dip in 30 years.
How concerned are you right now?
It's hard to find an optimistic, sunny farmer. No matter how rough a day we have, you get to the end of the day, you get home with your family, and you say, we're going to do better tomorrow. I don't need a pat on the back to do this job, but I need people to understand what it takes to do this job.
Still, Chittenden says knowing the business for this family feeds into special traditions for other families keeps him going.
When I go to the grocery store and I see products that I know started on my farm, there's pride there. Not every dairy farmer can point to a product in the grocery store and know that their milk is in it. That brand means everything to us.
Speaking of those special traditions, when it comes to saving money on your holiday dishes, a little planning can go a long way. Many baking ingredients like butter or even flour freeze well, so buy them when they go on sale and stock up for use year-round. You can also consider substitutions like yogurt or even applesauce instead of oil in some baked goods. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
The White House transforms into a winter wonderland. A look at the Christmas decorations now up at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in 2 minutes. We had a group of surprise carolers drop by the H&N studios today. It's an annual holiday tradition by Hawaiian Airlines that we all look forward to every year. Now, there was music, hula, and Santa even handed out cookies to everyone. It was a great way to start off the week.
I missed the cookies. In Washington, First Lady Jill Biden is debuting the 2024 White House holiday decorations. This year's holiday theme, a season of peace and light. The decor includes 83 Christmas trees, more than 28,000 ornaments, and over 165,000 lights. More than 300 volunteers from across the country helped create the Winter Wonderland.
And this is just adorable video you have to see. Rescue dogs in Dublin, Ireland were treated to some early Christmas presents on Santa Paws Day. Check it out. The annual tradition involves lining up hundreds of generously donated dog toys and allowing the dogs to choose their own Christmas presents. As you can see, the animals were overjoyed with their new haul of toys.
That first one was really,
I know, he was very excited. Well, thanks for watching. This is now.